particular sheet, it's a halvesies. And when I say that, what I mean is we're going to do the notes on the front, but then the homework, I want to make sure I do this right. Yes, that's right. Okay. So this is going to be our third one into the next homework check. Because our quiz preview was in the last one, the one that we basically kind of worked through together back on Wednesday, and then working some with the slope-intercept form. So here's how this works. These work just like lines did, except now we get to do a little bit of coloring or shading with it. So here's how this works. Anybody remember, I should grab Mr. Slope Guy for this. So if this were just the equation x equals 3, what direction would my line go? Is it going to go up and down or side to side? Let's see here. Hey, he's going to make an appearance. Okay. Mr. Slope Guy looking to make an appearance. X equals, let's see here. X equals goes up and down, because like we've said before with these, if I go to where x equals 3 and put a dot, if I draw a line, if you're using a pen especially, don't draw the line yet, I would just draw a line through here, because everywhere along here, every point my x value is going to be 3. But here's the new part of this that we have to get used to. We decide what type of line we're going to draw based on the arrow. If it's just an arrow without a line underneath, that's going to be what's called a dotted or a dashed line. And that's how I'm going to signify that. So I can't just put a regular whole full line every time, or that's not going to work real well for me. So just something that you want to be aware of. Now the second part of this that I'm going to have to be concerning myself with is going to be actually shading, because remember, when we're talking about an inequality, we're talking about lots of answers. Every answer where x is less than 3, we're going to have to shade in for. So let's make a couple other little notes here at the top so we can make sure we're doing this well. If my arrow's pointing towards x, okay, again, that's less than, my values are going down. And if my arrow's eating the x, that's greater than. Just so we can understand what it is we're trying to figure out. So here, this says x is less than 3. Which side of my line are x values less than 3? Which side? The left side, okay. So what I do is I shade, and again, that can just be a scribble. You can fully color it in if you want to. But what this is telling me is every answer over here, my x value is less than 3. Now there's some different ways we can try to figure this out. Why am I just doing that side? No, we're going to do more of them. So for instance, then if I'm doing 2, correct, yep. So for instance, on number 2, right, we're going to have a full line. It's not just going to end up being dotted. So here, I go to where y is -1. Now what direction do I have to go to get to where y is -1? Down. Because again, my y-axis is up and down. So once I do that, I'm going to make a horizontal line. And like Caitlin had said, since there's a line underneath, okay, it's going to be a solid line. Okay, but that's why we've got this to help us, so when we get there we can figure out, you know, if it's solid or dotted and what I'm doing. So then I look and I say, okay, well, what's this say? This says y is greater than, because the arrow is eating my y. So y is greater than -1. So are my values of -1 get bigger above or below the line? In other words, if you're not sure, here's the other thing that I can do. And this is what I'm going to start doing on problems anyway. I can pick a test point, and it can be anywhere. So let's say I'm just going to test this point out right here, 4. Okay, y equals 4 right there. So here would be my question if I test this point. If I plug in 4 for y, is 4 greater than -1 is? Well, yeah. Since that's true, that's the side of the line that I need to shade on. So if you're not sure with the arrows on how things work necessarily, without seeing numbers, that's something I can do. Bless you. So as we do these, so like if I get to the next one, I'm like, oh, now I got y and x. Oh, now I'm graphing like we were just doing with graphing lines. If I don't see a y-intercept on the end here, what number is here? Close. 0. Now, for some of you saying 1, if there's no number in front of my x, I assume that's 1. So like when we get to number 5, there'll be a 1 here. But if there's no number on the end, we're going to assume it's 0. And to kind of review a little bit what we used to do with these, or what we have been doing, whatever the number is on the end, I'm always going to graph that first. Okay, that's my y-intercept. So if my y-intercept is at 0, I'm just going to put a dot at 0 and go about my business. Once I've done that, then I'm going to do my slope. So the question is, what's 1/2 mean when I'm doing slope? Yeah, up 1 and right 2. So from that first dot I made, I'm going to go up 1 and right 2. And I'll do it a couple of times if I have room, just to make sure I'm accurate. So I get those dots put in. Then I go, okay, is the line that I'm going to draw through them solid or dotted? Dotted, because I don't see any lines underneath my arrow. So I'm going to go dotted line here, or dashed maybe if you want to call it that. But now here comes the part that gets to be tricky. And I've got a way of doing this that I think is going to make it a little bit easier for you, but you're going to have to tell me so I can see if this works or not. When I'm trying to figure out which side to shade on, typically here's how the way it works. Since it's always relating to y, if y is less than, you shade on the side where the bottom part of my arrow is here, on my axis. If it's y is greater than, you shade up where the 10 is at. So you shade where the -10 is if it's less, and the 10 is if it's y, because it's getting bigger as it goes up and smaller as it goes down. So here, since y is less than, well, the less values of y are below my line. Those are the types of things I'm trying to figure out here. Because for some of you, I think if we do a number, it's going to confuse you more than it's going to help you. At least on the problems like this. So if it's less than, we're shading down here. Greater than, we're shading up here. And for each of these, that's kind of the process we're going to work through. So if I don't have a y-intercept, I'm just going to put 0. And again, that means that's my first point. It's going to be at 0 because that's my y-intercept. But here's my question this time. What's my slope and where am I going to go?
0.
My y-intercept 0, but what about my slope?
3.
Okay, my slope is 3, but I always want to make it a fraction. So I'm going to make it over 1. So I'm going to go up 3 and right 1. So from that first dot, up 3 and right 1. up 3, and right 1. So once I do that, my 2 questions left are, first, is it going to be solid or dotted? Solid, because we got the line underneath. So I draw my line, and then I remind myself, okay, when I'm trying to figure out which side of the line I'm shading on, where the negative 10's at, that would be the less than side. Where the positive 10's at, that's where the greater side would be. And that includes the or equal. So since y is greater than, I want to shade on the side where the positive 10 is. So I'm going to shade here, because that's where the y values are greater. Just think of it as though as you're going up, the y values are getting greater and greater. Oh, so that's the y is greater than side. As I come this way, the y values get less and less. So that's the y is less than side. And it helps me kind of see where they're going to be. So then as we go, now let's see. Finally, we got numbers for everything. What's my y-intercept for number 5? Thought I heard it. 5. Okay, so that's my y-intercept. I'm doing that first. It's 5, so I go to where 5 is, and I put it out. And then, like Caitlin had mentioned earlier, that's close. That's a good question. When I see the negative, remember, the negative is only going to go with one of the numbers. And I always just put it on top, because that way everything, it's the same every time. But Courtney, you're right. The negative 1 means 1 down. But the 1 down here is positive. So we're going to end up going to the right. So down 1 and right 1. Down 1 and right 1. Okay, get a couple of points in. Solid or dotted line? Dotted, because we don't have any line underneath. And then again, just keep reminding yourself, you may not have to jot this in forever, but for now it's a good idea. Remember, where the negative 10y is going to be my less than. And where the positive 10 for y is, that's where my greater than would be. So since this is y is less than, I shade on the side where the less than would be, where my numbers are less. And that's all we're doing for all of these. I'm just going to continue to plot my y-intercept first. And again, if it's negative, I have to pay attention to that. So I'd go down 3, put a dot. So that first dot, unless it's like an x or a y equals itself, is always going to be on this line, on my y-axis. What do I do for my slope this time? Where am I going to go for my slope? Yeah, my slope is 2 over 1. So I'm going to go up 2 and right 1. So I'm going to go up 2, right 1, 2 and right 1. Get my dots. What type of a line are we going to have? Solid, because again, the line's underneath. And I've got that note up above just in case I forget. And then all I'm going to do as far as these go is, again, the less than will be down with the negative 10. The greater than would be up here. And since this is y is greater than, the arrow's eating the y, just like it is here. I use that to figure out my side to shade on. Let's see. Ooh, we can get fractions now. This is good. Keep that on there. All right, 7. I'm just going to ask questions. You get to give me all the answers this time. Where's my y-intercept for number 7? 2. All right, big dot on 2. My slope looks like it's 2/3. What does that mean? Yeah, up 2 and right 3. So up 2, right 3, up to right 3. All right, 2 little questions to go. What type of line am I going to draw through? Dotted, because we don't have the line going through there. Okay. And then again, my less than is down here, my greater than is up here. And again, it says greater than, just match them up. And let that help you figure out which side you're coloring in on. And that's going to be the same as you notice for every single one. Here, my y-intercept is 1. Ooh, we got a negative this time. Okay, so once I get my y-intercept, what's this negative 1 over 4 tell me? Yep, down 1 and right 4. So down 1, right 4, down 1, right 4. Okay, what type of line am I going to draw? Solid. Now we're starting to get rolling a little bit here. And again, here's my less than, here's my greater than, because again, my values are going up here, they're down here, and it's y is less than, arrow's pointing at y. And I'm good there. And finally, ooh, I'm trying to trick you. What's the y-intercept on number 9? Nice, no tricking you guys. And you're like, well, how do you know that? Because again, my slope's the number with x. Whatever number's all by its lonesome is my y-intercept. And that's what I have to watch out for here. Don't get in such the habit that the first number is always the slope and the last one's the y-intercept. It's not every time. So then again, this negative, here's what I would do. I'd put it up here on the 3, because that way I don't get confused. So if I do negative 3 over 2, where am I going?
Negative over 2, going down 3.
Okay. All right. So down 3 and right 2. Down 3 and right 2. Last steps and we're done. What type of line? Solid or dotted? Dotted. How I know that is based on if there's a line underneath my arrow or not. Because we mentioned up here at the top, if there's no line underneath my arrow, it's dotted. Yep. Otherwise, it's going to be dotted. And then my last part, again, here's my greater than, here's my less than. It's greater than, so it matches up here. And I'm good. So now, I actually want to do a couple on the back with you, because the back is where the assignment's at for this. So, they're all looking pretty normal for those first 6, but then it starts looking weird. You get down to the bottom, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like what I've been doing. So here's what I would suggest. I'm going to do number 8 and number 9 with you. If they're already in intercept form, it's going to give us a good chance to review a little bit. If they're not in y equals, if y is not alone like they are in 1 through 6, I would use intercept form. Now, if I remember right, intercept form is when I say, oh yeah, I'm just going to forget the y is even there. Now, I'm going to put an equals in here, so just kind of stay with me. Do we want to do it this way? Harty's going to change his mind midstream. I know what trouble we're going to get into if I do it this way with the intercepts. You guys might have an eraser. I have white out. Okay. Better idea. We're going to get y by itself. Oh, geez. You're going to get y by itself? Yes. I know some of you don't have this option, but we'll get you to the right answer this way. Okay. If my sole job is to get 3y by itself, I have a positive 7x. What's the opposite? Subtract. Oh. Okay, so 3y is greater.
We write that on our paper.
We are just going to put your final inequality on your paper here in a minute.
All right.
So you can just kind of see where it's coming from. But I don't quite have y alone yet.
Got,
Okay, we've got to divide by 3. Now, I'm not going to change this into a decimal. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got y is greater than or equal to, shh. If you punch it into the calculator and it's going to come out a decimal, just leave it as a fraction. Don't try to turn it into something else. But what's 6 divided by 3? 2. This is what I'm going to actually graph. But I got to get y alone first. So if I got to do a little work down the side here to get that in, that's okay. But that's what I'm going to do. So I'm like, okay, the negative 2 is here on the end. So I go down 2, put a dot. Now here's where life gets interesting. If my slope was negative 7 over 3, where would I go normally? If that's my slope. Yeah, I'd go down 7. You're like, I can't go down 7. I don't have enough room. So remember, if I put the negative on the top, I can also, if I run out of room, I could switch it up and put the negative on the bottom. So let's see if that works. What would this be? It'd be up 7 and left 3. Let's see if that works. Up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Yep, that works. Okay. So that's something that I can take into consideration when I'm doing this. So what I would do then is I'd go ahead, I'm just making sure I'm doing everything right here. Okay. Solid line. And my greater than for my y is up here. So I'm just going to shade above where that's at. And I'll even do number 9 with you. I'll leave number 7 for you to do. All right, get ready. We're going to do this strange. I'm going to turn the paper sideways. I'm just going to rewrite this so we actually have room to do this. And you'll be able to do the same thing on yours. Okay. Oh, off the screen. Job 1. Get negative 2y alone. What's the opposite of minus and 6? Add. One step to go. Divide. Now here's the other kicker on this one. I'm dividing by a negative, right? This is where we get to really review with our inequalities. If I divide by a negative, that's going to flip the arrow around. So now instead of being greater than, it's going to be less than. 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. So that's what I'm actually going to attempt to graph. Y is less than or equal to negative 3x minus 5. And I think I better turn this the other way or I'm going to get my axes mixed up. So just a second here. See how well I can read sideways here. So my y-intercept's at negative 5. 1, 2. And with my slope being negative 3 over 1, if I did it sort of like what we did before, negative 3 is down. Well, I can't go down. So I got to switch them again. So this is the slope I'm going to work with. So here, that's up 3 and left 1. Up 3 and left 1. Oops, it's not dotted, Harty, it's solid. Because again, it's the or equal to, but it's y is less than. And that would be this part here this time. Okay? But the other ones up above, you're just doing exactly like what we did on the front. So that's not bad, 7 problems for an assignment. That's pretty quick, actually. And like I said, we'll be doing this on Tuesday, too, since you get a long weekend this time. And we will continue doing those then.